They called me Mama, but only when they needed something. Dishes, laundry, babysitting. I became the unpaid maid in my own son's house. My daughter-in-law Ashley smiled sweetly in front of guests, but treated me like a piece of furniture, an inconvenient fixture behind closed doors. "Why don't you just be useful and stay out of the way?" Martha, she'd said one night, a dismissive sigh in her voice, not knowing I was just around the corner listening, my heart clenching. But I wasn't angry. Not in the explosive way one might expect. I was patient. I was observing. Because sometimes revenge doesn't require shouting matches or dramatic confrontations, it just needs silence, a keen understanding of human nature, and a little bit of carefully planned strategy. So I stopped helping. I started watching. And slowly, meticulously, I let her perfectly curated, effortlessly managed little world begin to fall apart. One missed daycare pickup at a time, one burned dinner, one forgotten but crucial doctor's appointment for the twins. And when she finally snapped, when the carefully constructed facade of her perfect life began to crumble under the weight of her own neglected responsibilities, I was ready. What happened next? Well, let's just say she learned in a way she would never forget. Exactly what it means to underestimate the quiet strength and enduring importance of the woman who helped build the very family she was trying to run into the ground. My name is Martha Delgado. I'm 63 years old, a widow, and until recently, I used to believe that love, dedication, and years of quiet sacrifice would naturally be reciprocated with respect and appreciation. I was profoundly wrong. When my beloved husband Miguel passed away 5 years ago, the silence in our small, cozy home became unbearable. Our son Evan, ever practical, suggested I sell our house and move in with him and his new wife Ashley. He'd painted a rosy picture. It would be good for all of us, he'd said. He and Ashley would get some much-needed help with their then-infant twins. I wouldn't be alone in my grief, and we'd all save on living costs. A win-win, or so it seemed. At first, I believed him. I packed up decades of memories, the cherished photo albums, Miguel's worn woodworking tools, my trusty old sewing machine, and moved into the small guest room at the back of their sprawling, modern, gray-toned house. The kind of house Ashley had decorated to look like a page from an upscale furniture catalog, beautiful, minimalist, sterile, and ultimately cold. But what began with warm invitations of, "We'd love to have you with us, Mom. It'll be like one big, happy family," quickly, insidiously turned into something else entirely. It started small, as these things often do. Innocent requests, easily fulfilled by a grandmother eager to feel useful and loved. "Could you possibly fold the mountain of laundry while I'm out at my yoga class, Mama? It would be such a help. Can you grab the kids from daycare today? I'm absolutely swamped with a work deadline. Dinner's in the fridge. Could you just heat it up before Evan gets home? I'm meeting a friend for a quick drink." I didn't mind, not really. I wanted to help. That's what family does, isn't it? We support each other. We pitch in. But soon the polite "could you" morphed into an expectant "you need to." Then the tone changed. It became sharper, tinged with impatience, with entitlement. "Why is the sink full of dishes again, Mama? I thought you were going to take care of that. Did you forget to sterilize the baby's bottles? Again, honestly, how hard can it be? Didn't I specifically ask you to sweep the entire downstairs before my book club guests arrived?" Ashley started using a tone with me that she never ever used with her coworkers, her friends, or even the delivery guy. It was the tone people reserve for hired help, for assistants, for staff, for the invisible people who keep things running smoothly in the background. And Evan, my son Evan, he didn't even seem to notice, or perhaps he chose not to. He was always working late, always glued to his phone, always offering placating excuses. Like, "Ashley's just stressed, Mom. She doesn't mean it." Or, "She's just a bit overwhelmed with the kids and her career. Try not to take it personally." But I felt it. Every single day. The shift. The subtle, then not so subtle demotion. I wasn't Martha Delgado anymore. Miguel's wife, Evan's mother, the twins' loving abuela. I was, in their eyes, simply the help. The unpaid live-in woman who kept their household running seamlessly while Ashley networked at her expensive Pilates studio or vented to her online mommy group over a glass of Chardonnay. The breaking point, the moment the quiet resignation within me finally hardened into a steely resolve, came on a dreary Thursday afternoon. Ashley, it turned out, had once again forgotten to pick up her dry cleaning an expensive silk blouse she needed for a work event that evening. She called me in a huff from her car, her voice tight with irritation. I had just sat down with a rare cup of hot tea, my knees aching from chasing after the energetic 2-year-old twins all morning, trying to soothe their tantrums and keep them entertained. I heard her car pull into the driveway, then the click-clack of her heels on the hardwood floor as she walked through the front door, oversized sunglasses perched on her perfectly styled hair like a crown, her phone still pressed firmly to her ear, mid-conversation with a friend. She paused in the doorway of the living room, glanced at me sitting there, and said half to me, half to the oblivious person on the other end of the line, her voice dripping with casual disdain. "Oh, she's still here. Of course. What else would she be doing? She's basically our live-in maid, you know. Super convenient, but honestly, sometimes she's just in the way." Then she breezed past me into the kitchen without a second glance, as if I were indeed a piece of furniture, an inanimate object unworthy of further consideration. I sat frozen, the teacup trembling in my hand. Something cracked then, not the delicate porcelain, but something deeper, something far more precious. My dignity, my sense of self-worth within that house. And right then, in that moment of stinging casual dismissal, I decided, if she saw me as a maid, then I would show her with chilling precision exactly what her life looked like without one. Not with drama, not with a tearful confrontation or a shouting match. That wasn't my style, and frankly, it wouldn't work with Ashley. No, my revenge would be silent, calculated. A lesson taught not through words but through absence, with precision, with patience, with the quiet, unyielding strength they had so foolishly underestimated. That evening I said nothing, not to Ashley, not to Evan. I ate the dinner I had prepared, cleaned my own plate, and retreated to my room. But the next morning I didn't sweep the floors. I didn't strip the beds or start the endless loads of laundry. I didn't prep the twins' complicated snack bags with their organic, gluten-free, nut-free requirements, nor did I lay out their perfectly coordinated outfits. Instead, I took a book I'd been wanting to read for months out into the small backyard, found a sunny spot, and settled in with a fresh cup of coffee. Ashley came downstairs much later than usual, already frantic, her hair disheveled, yelling for the twins' missing socks, nearly tripping on a stray building block left in the hallway from the previous day. "Mama, didn't you?" she began, her voice sharp with accusation. Then she paused abruptly, seeing me on the patio, calmly turning a page. I looked up from my book, my expression serene. "Good morning, Ashley. Lovely day, isn't it?" She blinked momentarily, thrown off balance, then forced a tight, strained smile. "Right. Good morning. Did you make the lunches for the twins?" I took a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee. "No, dear. I assumed you would want to handle that yourself today, since they are, after all, your children and you know their preferences best." She stood frozen in the doorway, blinking rapidly, as if she couldn't quite comprehend the words I was saying or the calm, almost detached way I was saying them. I stood up, then carefully dusted off my cardigan and walked past her into the house, leaving her standing there, a look of utter bewilderment on her face. The game had begun. For the next week, I let small things go. Just small things at first. The kind of things that, when undone, create a slow, creeping chaos. I let the damp towels pile up in the laundry bin in the bathroom. I didn't refill the milk in the fridge when it ran out, nor the juice boxes the twins loved. I didn't remind her about the parent-teacher conference for which she'd forgotten to RSVP. The house, once a smoothly oiled machine, thanks to my invisible efforts, began to groan under the weight of unspoken, undone labor. The meticulous order Ashley prided herself on began to fray at the edges. Ashley, I observed, looked increasingly tired. She snapped more frequently, not just at me, but at Evan, at the children. She missed 2 important work meetings blaming traffic, then a faulty alarm. She completely forgot her best friend's baby shower and had to make a frantic last-minute dash to the drugstore for a gift, showing up late and flustered with a poorly wrapped gift bag. And every time she turned to say something sharp to me, something biting, something entitled, something along the lines of, "Why haven't you?" I would simply meet her gaze with a calm, patient smile. Not a smile of smugness or triumph, not yet, but a smile of quiet, unwavering clarity. She was finally painfully beginning to feel the weight of the burden I had carried silently and unthanked for 3 long years. And I knew with a certainty that settled deep in my bones that I wasn't finished yet. The lesson was far from over. By the end of that second week, the atmosphere in the house had shifted from merely frayed to palpably tense, like the air before a summer thunderstorm. Ashley was unraveling visibly bit by bit. The laundry, no longer just in piles, had begun to resemble a small mountain range in the utility room. The fridge was a wasteland of forgotten leftovers and nearly empty condiment jars. The baby, Leo, one of the twins, developed a persistent angry rash from wearing the wrong brand of diapers because no one, meaning Ashley, had remembered to buy the usual hypoallergenic kind I always stocked. Evan came home from a long day at work to a cold, unappetizing dinner one night, a half-eaten pizza from the previous day, and finally something seemed to click, or perhaps snap in him. "Did Mom not cook tonight?" he asked, his voice tinged with a weary confusion as he surveyed the chaotic kitchen. Ashley, who had been trying to simultaneously soothe a wailing Leo and find a clean spoon, whirled around her face, flushed, her eyes flashing. "She's been doing absolutely nothing lately." "Evan, nothing. I've had to do everything myself. It's like she thinks she's retired from living in this house and contributing." I was sitting at the dining table, ostensibly reading a magazine, but actually observing the unfolding drama, folding a paper napkin into an intricate swan, quiet as always. Evan gave me a puzzled, questioning look. Then his gaze swept around the room, taking in the stack of unopened mail on the counter, the toys scattered across the floor. The 2 cranky, overtired twins now fighting over a single tablet. Then he turned back to his wife, and for the first time in a long time, there was a new critical note in his voice. "Everything, Ashley. Are you sure about that? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like Mom has kept this entire house running single-handedly for years. Maybe you just didn't notice because it was always done before you had to think about it." The silence that followed that statement was, to put it mildly, delicious. Ashley looked as though Evan had physically slapped her. Her mouth fell open, then snapped shut. Color rose in her cheeks. Later that night, after a strained and largely silent evening, there was a soft, hesitant knock on my bedroom door. I knew that knock, timid, restrained, almost apologetic. The kind of knock you use when you're not entirely sure what version of the person on the other side you're going to face. I opened the door and stepped aside, offering no verbal invitation, but allowing her entry. Ashley lingered in the doorway for a long moment, her eyes darting to the floor, then back to my face, a new uncertainty in her usually confident gaze. I didn't realize how much you were actually doing around here," she said, finally, her voice small, subdued. "I guess I just assumed that it would always magically get done," I asked gently without accusation, letting the question hang in the air between us. She nodded, a jerky, uncomfortable movement. "You've always been so on top of everything, so organized." I let her words, her belated partial acknowledgement, hang in the air uncomfortably. I didn't rush to fill the silence to make it easier for her. "And did you ever stop to ask yourself why, Ashley? Why one person was on top of everything while others weren't?" She flinched, a subtle but definite reaction. "I'm sorry," she said, the words sounding a little more genuine this time. "I truly am. I've been under a lot of pressure lately. With my job. And the kids. And, well, everything." I gave her a long, steady look, holding her gaze until she looked away again. "You're not the only one under pressure in this house, Ashley." Her shoulders sagged, a visible deflation of her usual self-assured posture. I know that now. Her voice cracked and she paused, swallowing hard. I guess I forgot you're a person too, with your own needs, your own limits." I stepped forward then, just a small step, and gently placed a hand on her arm. Her skin felt cool. You forgot I'm family Ashley, not an employee. The next day, Ashley made breakfast. For everyone. It was awkward to say the least. The pancakes were a little too burnt on one side, a little too raw on the other. The syrup was still cold from the fridge. But she tried. She genuinely tried. And the day after that, she did the daycare run, navigating the car seats and the tantrums without my assistance. She picked up the correct brand of diapers without me needing to remind her. She even, to my utter surprise, brought me a cup of tea in the afternoon, just the way I like it. 2 sugars, no milk. I didn't say much. I didn't offer praise or effusive thanks, but I saw it. I acknowledged it with a small nod, a quiet smile. The shift, the dawning humility, the slow, painful, but necessary understanding of the invisible labor I'd been shouldering. But the real test, the true measure of whether this lesson was sinking in, came when her own mother Cheryl visited that weekend. Cheryl was a woman who never let anyone forget that her daughter had married well and that she, by extension, was a connoisseur of all things refined and proper. She had an opinion about everything, and most of her opinions about me were thinly veiled criticisms. "So, Martha," she said that Saturday afternoon as she sipped her imported single-origin herbal tea from one of Ashley's best china cups, her voice laced with that familiar condescending sweetness. Still playing the ever-so-sweet indispensable housekeeper for the young folks. "Such a dear you are." Ashley, who was sitting opposite her, went pale. I saw her hand tighten on her own teacup. I, however, smiled, my expression as sweet as honey. "Actually, Cheryl, I've taken a bit of a step back recently. Ashley has been running the house so beautifully all on her own. I'm really just enjoying being the guest now." Cheryl raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow, a look of surprise and perhaps a little disappointment at being denied her usual sport flashing across her face. Ashley set her own cup down on the saucer with a distinct, sharp clink. "Mom," she said, her voice tight, firm, and astonishingly clear. "Martha isn't a maid. She's Evan's mother. She's family. And I haven't always treated her that way, but that's changing. Effective immediately." My eyes met Ashley's across the table. There was no sarcasm in her tone, no defensiveness, no performance for her mother's benefit, only a quiet, resolute sincerity. Cheryl looked utterly stunned into silence, for perhaps the first time in her life. I didn't say another word. I didn't need to. Ashley had said it all. Later that evening, after Cheryl had departed and the twins were finally asleep, Evan pulled me aside in the hallway. He looked tired, older than his years, but there was a new clarity in his eyes. "Mom," he said quietly, his voice full of a remorse that felt genuine. "I've been so blind, haven't I? For years. I didn't speak, just met his gaze. I let us, treat you like staff, like you were just here to serve us, and I never stopped it. I never said anything. I'm so sorry, Mom. Truly sorry." I smiled, then a small, tired but genuine smile, and patted his arm. "It's not about blame, Evan. Not anymore. It's about awareness. And now that you both see it, now you both can grow. Together." 3 weeks after my quiet rebellion, my silent lesson began. Something truly remarkable happened. Something that told me the tides were genuinely turning. Ashley started waking up before the twins did. Consistently. She packed their lunchboxes with a newfound care and attention to detail, cutting their sandwiches into little star shapes, just like I used to do, writing silly notes on their napkins that said things like, "You are loved" or "Have a super day." She looked tired, yes, the kind of tired that comes from hands-on parenting, but there was a softness to her face I hadn't seen since she was a new, overwhelmed mother. A humility that wasn't born of defeat, but of genuine, hard-won growth. She wasn't perfect. There were still days when things were chaotic, when tempers frayed. But she was trying, she was present, she was engaged, and for the first time she was doing it without expecting a medal, without seeking applause or constant validation. She was doing it because it needed to be done, and because she was finally taking full responsibility for her role in the family. That Sunday morning, after a surprisingly peaceful breakfast that Ashley had orchestrated, I asked her if she had a few minutes to sit down for a coffee, just the two of us. She looked startled, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. "Oh, okay. Did I do something wrong again?" "No, sweetheart," I said, smiling genuinely this time. "On the contrary, you did something very, very right. And I think it's time we talked. Honestly, woman to woman, not as mother-in-law and daughter-in-law with all the baggage that can sometimes carry, but just as two women sharing a home, sharing a family." She sat down slowly at the kitchen table, her eyes cautious but open receptive. "I didn't move in here to become your maid, Ashley," I began, my voice gentle but firm. "I came here because Evan asked me to, because I thought I was joining a family that I would be a part of it. I helped with everything gladly because I love you all, because I love Evan and I adore those grandchildren. But love without respect, Ashley, eventually curdles. It becomes servitude, and I refuse to be invisible, to be taken for granted in a home I helped to build and maintain." Ashley nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I know. I never meant to treat you that way, Martha. Truly, I didn't. I got overwhelmed, and I think I just started expecting." "I believe you," I said, and I did. I don't think her actions came from a place of deep malice, but rather from a place of unexamined privilege and a certain degree of self-absorption. But I also believe in accountability. That's why I stepped back, so you and Evan could see what was really happening. Not to hurt you, though, I know it was uncomfortable, but to give you both the chance to see, to learn, and to rise to the occasion." She wiped a tear from her cheek with the back of her hand and whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Martha. Thank you for not giving up on me, on us. I will never give up on my family," I replied, my voice equally soft. "But I also won't carry everything and everyone anymore. From now on, we share the load. All of us. Not because I'm weak or incapable, but because you, Ashley, are strong enough now to carry your own share. And Evan his." That afternoon, something shifted permanently in the dynamic of the household. It was subtle, yet profound. Ashley, with a newfound, almost shy enthusiasm, asked me if I would help her with a project redecorating the cluttered spare room, my former guest room, before I officially moved into it, into a proper shared play space for the twins. And she didn't ask because she needed to outsource the labor or because she felt obligated. She asked because she genuinely wanted to create something together as a team, as family. We spent the afternoon painting walls, a cheerful yellow assembling toy shelves, sorting through mountains of forgotten toys, and we laughed. Genuinely laughed, not the polite, strained laughter that had characterized our interactions for so long. And when Evan came home from work and saw us both with streaks of yellow paint in our hair smudges on our clothes, and the twins dancing around with child-safe roller brushes, he just stood in the doorway for a long moment, a slow, warm smile spreading across his face. He didn't say it out loud, but I saw it in his eyes, in the relaxed set of his shoulders. Balance. It had finally painstakingly returned to their home. The final piece of the lesson, the one that cemented the change, came the following week. Ashley invited me out, just the two of us, to a small, charming brunch cafe she liked in a nearby neighborhood. I agreed, pleasantly surprised by the unsolicited invitation. We sat on the sunny patio, a comfortable, easy silence between us as we sipped our lattes. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a small, elegant velvet box. I wanted to give you this, Martha," she said, her cheeks slightly flushed as she slid it across the table. I opened it, and inside, nestled on a bed of satin, was a delicate silver bracelet. Dangling from it was a single beautifully engraved silver charm. The charm read, "Matriarch." "I get it now, Martha," Ashley said, her voice soft but earnest, her eyes meeting mine directly. "This house, this family. It was never truly held together by perfect furniture or meticulously planned schedules or gourmet meals. It was held together by you, by your quiet strength, your unwavering love, your endless patience. You're the backbone. You always have been, and I want my kids, Leo and Lily, to grow up knowing that, respecting that, understanding the true meaning of family of contribution, of respect for elders. I took a deep, shaky breath, fighting back a wave of emotion that threatened to overwhelm me. It wasn't just the beautiful gift, it was the meaning behind it, the profound shift it represented. "You're becoming quite the matriarch yourself, Ashley," I said softly, my voice a little thick. "And if you always remember what you've learned these past few weeks, what you've truly felt, you'll lead this family with grace, with wisdom, and with a compassionate heart." We clinked our coffee cups together, a silent toast. The air between us, once so fraught with unspoken resentments and quiet power struggles, was finally beautifully clear. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. They say it's loud, explosive, and designed to inflict pain. But sometimes I've learned the most powerful, most lasting revenge is silence, is the quiet, deliberate act of stepping back, is letting people fall just enough to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet, to appreciate the hands that once held them up. Ashley thought I was her maid, an invisible cog in her perfectly managed life. She forgot I was her elder, her family, her teacher in ways she never anticipated, her equal. But now, she knows. And now, more importantly, she respects. Because I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I didn't engage in bitter confrontations. I simply let her feel the profound, unsettling absence of what she had so carelessly, so consistently taken for granted. And in that space, in that uncomfortable void I created, she grew. Evan grew. Their family began to heal. Now when she calls me Mama, it's no longer out of habit or a subtle demand for service. It's out of love. It's out of honor. It's out of genuine respect. And that I've discovered is the sweetest revenge of all.